hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Welcome to the first Global Women's Alumni event. There are so many amazing women alumni from IIT Bombay, and our motivation for this event is to inspire, connect, and engage all the amazing women alumni from all around the world. We have a full agenda, starting with some introductory remarks, followed by two panel sessions, and then some open interactive sessions for us to connect and engage more. Before we go into the session, I also wanted to take a minute to share with you that today's event is very personal for me and my sister Shalini, who is also one of the panelists on this session. We both studied at IIT Bombay along with my brother, and our father, who some of you know, was a world-renowned scientist and our constant source of inspiration, always encouraging us forward. He was a strong supporter of women's education and empowerment and would spend a lot of time talking to groups of women about science and why that's so important for the world. He passed away a few days ago, and we are deeply grieving his loss. But we wanted to be here today as a tribute to him and to keep his legacy moving forward. So this event for me personally is something where, in addition to the amazing conversations that we're going to have, is also a way to honor my father. With that, let me hand over to DC Agarwal, President of IIT BHF, to say some introductory words.
Thank you, Shibani. And thank you for being able to join this program while you had this big loss of your father. And I realize how much you care for this kind of a program. And good morning and good evening to all those in India and elsewhere. On behalf of IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation, or what we call HF in short, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this groundbreaking session, specially geared to our women alumni. HF is your alumni arm in US. It was formed in 1996. And in celebrating Heritage Foundation's 25th anniversary, our board and I thought it would be good to hold a special event to better engage our women alumni. Many of the older alumni may not know that women students make a large and growing share of students at IIT Bombay. They are approximately now 15% of the undergraduates and 24% overall. So 1 in 4 on the campus today is a woman, which is really a major change. Hopefully, this change in the students will also lead to a more balanced alumni group in future. And it is my hope that you will be more engaged in alumni affairs and help shape and direct Heritage Foundation's future. And maybe perhaps one day on the Alumni Day, we'll have a special event as well like this. We realize that you face some unique challenges while at IIT Bombay and in your professional lives. Today's topic, Conversations with IIT Bombay's Amazing Women, addresses that thanks to the efforts of Sunita, Shivani, and Swasti, who are on our board, and our entire HF support team who are behind the scenes on this webinar. On a lighter note, I must say we have a lot of women associated HF activities, and all the names begin with the letter S. So it says something about how parents named girls in an earlier generation. It is just my little tidbit here. Hope you enjoyed today's program and stay till the end. And now I'm going to ask Director Subhashi Chaudhary to say a few words. He does not need a long introduction. Sufficient to say he's part of the IIT Bombay family for many years, working in many different roles at a senior level. He has been head of the electrical engineering department. He is Dean of International Relations, and then as also Deputy Director of Academic and Infrastructure Affairs. Since April 2019, he is director of the institute. And equally important, and more important, I should say, he's very engaged in supporting IIT Bombay's students, faculty, and alumni activities. Please welcome Professor Chaudhary.
Thank you, DC, and thank you, Shibani, for being here. And my deepest condolence in losing one of our dearest colleagues and peers. My deepest condolence to your families. We are together, in this journey that he has made as a researcher. But today, when we are actually appreciating the women faculty, our alumni, and how they have excelled in their life, particularly, I would say at the beginning of the IIT, of course, now, as DC said, that we have a lot more representation in the campus by our women students, but it was not so, let's say 30, 40, 50 years ago. And maybe all of them started with the name S, but I think there are very few, so that's why S counts so much. But I think, personally, it's really amazing to see the grit, the aspiration, and the training that they get, even though they might have faced a lot of hardship and difficulties in the campus during that time. I can tell myself, like when I studied about 40 years ago, we had one girl student in our class. And now, being the director, I think I can feel that how difficult it must have been for her to be one among 40 students in the class, okay? But I'm sure that no matter what it is, IIT always tried to provide a kind of ambience, even those days may not be what it is today, but something where the aspirations do flourish. They can get to whatever they wanted to do, okay? I know there have been a lot of restrictions in the society those days, but today, at least in the IIT system, particularly IIT Bombay, we have been trying to see that the ambience is very conducive to both the genders. We have several such initiatives that we have taken. And of course, there have been already existing several such things. One of them, of course, the gender cell is taking a strong leadership role in terms of bringing the women and the awareness among all of our students that how valuable it is to pay respect and have a dignified stay for all our women students. And also, I would say that very recently, IIT Bombay signed up with the GATI initiative of United Kingdom to see that whether we can further, use this kind of an avenue that has happened in certain Western countries to see how we can further go up in providing that kind of ambience. Okay. As you maybe also, I think, knowing that we are trying to see that, there is a gender awareness kind of a curriculum, so something it's a mandatory course required by the Senate for all our students to go through it. And hopefully we'll also be able to do similar kind of thing for our faculty members and staff also, so that our campus becomes a very good place. We are also looking for a leadership role within our system so that we can actually showcase that what we have in the campus to attract more girls in the campus. And to, as a matter of fact, next weekend, we are planning to have one kind of an open house for all girl students who have qualified for the current JEE, which the results are out just 2 days ago, okay? And this also we did last year, and we had more than 1,000 students, in the girl students and their families joined across India. And this is our way of saying that, please, if this is a great opportunity for you. So just because you may have certain things in the family, do not drop out of the IIT system, because this is a great opportunity for you. We'll be very happy to have you in IIT Bombay, but if not, at least join in some other IITs, so that basically, our parity in the gender, particularly in the engineering discipline, do improve. We're very happy that one of our alumni, this is Amit Dixit, he has set up a chair, women's chair, And what we're trying to probably also do, for this kind of a setup to create a kind of a feeling among all that the expert committee that we were trying to select, to be one of the possible candidates as the, this next chair for the, or the inaugural chair to be, can we have all the experts to be women? Okay, this in that case, probably the first time in any engineering or maybe the IIT system, this would be the first case where all the experts would be women. So this is a journey that we are trying to embark on to see that all students, be it girls, be it boys, okay, at that young tender age, that they can leverage the best that IIT Bombay can offer. And I'm very happy to see that many of you have graduated such a long time ago, but that you are coming here to showcase that yes, it's not only the one side of the gender, the other side of the story, the gender, how well they have prospered because of the IITB education. I think I'm really thankful to all of you, and this should happen. And I think some of you should come and actually talk to our current set of students, because they will be extremely motivating if you do talk to them. So thank you so much. And we look forward to having you here, because I tell you, most of the time in my office, I do get to see only the male alumni. Can we have many of you coming back to our campus, and let's discuss on how we can use your expertise in terms of making the lives of our next generation of students a lot more pleasurable one. Thank you so much for inviting me to this program.
Thank you for your kind remarks, Dr. Subhashi and DC. I joined the IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation Board in 2019, and it's been a truly rewarding experience for me, largely because of leaders like you who are so committed to diversity. You're always encouraging women to step up and serve the IIT Bombay community. And I think you create the right environment for us that makes us want to engage and contribute. And Dr. Subhashi, thank you especially for taking time on a Sunday evening in your very busy schedule to join us for this event. So I think we'll now move to our first panel, which is on career navigation and achieving work-life balance. We have three amazing women with us today: Sharada Srinivasan, who's from the class of 1987, Shalini Govilpai, class of 1990, and Shubha Ramachandran, class of 1996. So if you have questions for the panelists, please wait until the end. We'll request you to raise your hands at that point. So we'll start with our panelists introducing themselves. Let's first go to Sharada.
Very good day, I should say, because we're all in different time zones. And first of all, let me congratulate the IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation on the excellent activities and on this milestone, and wish you, further success and wonderful initiatives, which I think is very important. And also, this is a wonderful idea to give an opportunity to the women alumni to connect and give more visibility. And it was wonderful to hear the remarks of Dr. Agarwal and Director Subhashi Chaudhary on the many landmark initiatives that are being undertaken to also draw in more of the women alumni and so on. And let me also say that it's to express my deep condolences to Shibani and Shalini, and the demise of their very remarkable father, and which and we our prayers to all the family at this time. Well, speaking for myself, I think I am the geriatrics of this group. As was mentioned, I joined IIT in 1983 in engineering physics, and it was at that time quite a new and innovative program where there's a departure from the standard MSc and so on in physics and so on. And this tried to combine physics and engineering and so on. And so we were one of the early groups to get into this discipline. And well, it's something which even though it's now seems, yes, it just struck me that it is really a long time ago now, almost 40 years, but it doesn't seem that long ago in some ways. No matter whatever career path we take, I mean, for instance, now I'm a professor at the National Institute of Advanced Studies, and following a slightly maybe different trajectory, a bit more out of the box in a way, but it is always something that stands us in very good stead, no matter what we do. And even in my career in archaeological sciences, it was a huge stepping stone and so on. So I owe a lot to the IIT experience, and it's wonderful to be here with you all. So
wonderful. Shubha?
Yeah, hello. Good day, everybody. And I'm really honored and thankful to be here today. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the other women alumni who've also done so many other things going on from college. So very briefly, my story, I kind of grew up in small town Jamshedpur, now in Jharkhand. Thrilled to get through to IIT, got civil engineering, was even more thrilled because I imagined myself being a civil engineer, building bridges, buildings, that was the imagination with which I came in. I'm thrilled to meet all the women in our batch, the girls. They were all so brilliant. Subsequently, though, while I had these thoughts on civil engineering, I went on to do an IT job, as most people did. I graduated in 1996. I studied from 92 to 96 and had a great time on campus, and really would like to share all the wonderful things I did and learned while on campus. I went on to do an IT job. I was with Infosys for the first 12 years of my career. And subsequently, I kind of got more and more interested in the things that were happening around me, and which in a strange way took me back to civil engineering again, which was about how water was being managed in the very community that I stayed in, the city that I lived in the state. And so fortunately, I got to meet a very nice bunch of people. Some of us came together as volunteers, and we were a group called the Rainwater Club that subsequently went on to register a company, a private limited company offering services around sustainable water management. And now we are a trust looking at lakes in our city, around in the country. So it's happened fairly organically. I would say it wasn't all very well planned, but a lot of things that kept happening through life, all of which I'm very grateful for, kind of led me to coming here. And an observation to what was pointed earlier, I just realized a lot of us are with SH also. So perhaps the sure has something to do with it, not just the S as we were
Shakti.
yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, so Shivani, do you want to go to the next question?
Yeah, actually, Shalini is on as well. Sunita, so if you want to, Shalini, can you unmute yourself? Sridhar, Shalini shows up, her name shows up as director Subhashi. So maybe the link she got was the director's link, but if you can add her to the panel.
No, that's actually, hang on a second. I added her.
Or Shalini, if you can rename yourself, it's easy for Sridhar to spotlight you.
I've asked her to start the video. I've asked her to unmute as well.
I can see her on the video, Sridhar. I can see her.
No, again, wrong.
Can you see her? It shows up as director Subhashi.
Yeah, and that's, I think I'm every time I try to add him.
Unmute and see if that works.
Yeah, I think there is some. Can you hear me now? Two of them, director, so that's nice. Okay.
Okay. Can you folks hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
Can you see me too? I don't know if you can see me.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
okay.
I'll get out of this.
No, you're fine. Professor, you're fine.
Okay. The link I got was this link. I couldn't figure out how to change it. even though I am from IIT and I have studied computer science, so this should not have been that hard for me. But hi, everyone. Really great to see you all. Thank you, Shivani. Thank you, Sunita, for organizing this amazing event. Really looking forward to it. Uh, for everyone, hi, I'm Shalini. I graduated from IIT in 1990. So, Sharda, just 3 years behind you. So, you're not that much of a geriatric, don't worry. So, my story is, I grew up in Bombay and I always wanted to be part of Bollywood. That was my big dream. And my mother is an artist, and as Shivani said earlier, our dad is a scientist. So I was always looking to see how can I combine art and technology. And that was really, when an early age, I actually had the opportunity to act in a movie. And the movie was pretty well forgotten. That's all I can say. I worked at YouTube and we tried really hard to find that movie, but no one had even bothered to digitize it. That was how forgettable that movie was. So I realized, acting was probably not my career path, but computers had just started taking over the movie industry. We started seeing films like Star Wars. Pixar had started doing amazing computer graphics. And that's really what inspired me to get into computer science. So when I joined IIT, I started in computer science, and my goal was always how can I use my computer skills to make amazing movies? And so after IIT really helped me really ground myself in science, in physics, in computer science. And I went on to join Pixar Animation as my first job out of college. And we went on to make Toy Story, which I'm hoping all of you have seen. I'm sure all of your kids have seen it. And then A Bug's Life right after that. Those were my the first computer graphics animated movies, in fact. And I will say that the grounding that I got at IIT through my parents, through my sister who was also part of IIT. My husband is also part of IIT. My brother-in-law is also part of IIT. We are really an IIT family. And my brother is also part of IIT. That grounding really helped me prosper and survive in the Bollywood/Hollywood industry as a computer scientist. And I've continued to remain in entertainment, moving on to YouTube, where we really thought about the flip side of the equation, which was not about producing content, but it was about distributing using the internet. And then now on TV at Google, where I'm heading up all of our TV initiatives and how to really promote any producer. So you don't have to be a Disney to make content and distribute it. You can do it as an individual, what we call the creator economy. That's really our focus at this point. I mean, I really, really credit a lot of it to IIT and all my learnings there.
So, with that, we'll go into the second question. And Shalini, since you started on that thread, maybe you can continue. The second question we wanted each of you to answer for us is share with us is about how IIT helped you on your journey, both personally and professionally. So, Shalini, if you want to just continue that thought.
Okay. Yes, as I was pointing out, IIT is in our blood, it's in our family. Shivani, me, my husband Raj Pai, Joe D'Souza, my brother Anurag, we are all from IIT. So we're really, really, really fortunate to have IIT support us, help us grow in our thinking. All my network is from IIT. All of you are part of our families. I know many of you on the call. We have sent us condolence messages, as my father passed away. We're very, very close as a family. We will do anything for each other. That network is so strong. Even at Google, a lot of the VPs whom I interact with, the things that we get done at work are because we just know each other from IIT. So if I reach out to anyone and say, hey, I need this done, there are no questions asked. It gets done because we just know each other from so long. And that's the forms and the bonds that IIT has formed for us. In addition, all the training, the late night chais that we had, I'm sure all of you can attest to the fact that we always studied late night. We always went to, at that time, it was called, at Hostel 7, they had a Chinese fast food place that we used to go for. And I think it was called Rainbow, at 2 in the morning. I'm sure all of you remember the computer center. For us, it had just opened at that time. And it was always, your chappals always got stolen at that point. So all those memories really just helped build who I am, my my sense of pride, accomplishments, my sense of training, my sense of fun, my network. It's all come from IIT. So that's really what IIT has meant for me.
Thanks, Shalini. Shubha, how about you? Would you like to share how IIT helped you on both personal and professional front?
Sure. Yeah, in fact, I was giving this question a fair bit of thought. So, in my family, I was pretty much the first person to come into IIT. And in Jamshedpur, where I grew up, most of our fathers were engineers. So, it was kind of assumed that you would go on to study because it was Tata Steel. That's the company that most parents worked in. So, I was doing well in school, and I was really thrilled to get in. But as soon as I got in, I realized that there is this whole bunch of people who are so brilliant, so marvelous, hardworking. So I think that was a great learning for me. It kind of opened my eyes and gave me avenues to understand how different minds work. I also saw some other people feeling quite the same way as I did. So I think it was a good learning for me coming from where I had been a topper, doing very well, and here I saw myself that this is a much larger world and this is where you really are. But at the same time, they're all your friends, they're doing various things. I think somewhere that kind of gave a grounded starting point, and I really learned to appreciate the diversity and the kind of various thoughts that both the girls and the boys had. The other thing that I'm really thankful to IIT for is the kind of facilities we had, whether it be our swimming pool. And perhaps was one of those few who made use of everything: the swimming pool, the basketball court, the inter IITs that we got to participate in. And there I now I realize that while being very few girls on campus was a disadvantage, but here it was an advantage because even if you were reasonably good, but you had this opportunity to actually go out and shine and develop your skills even further. So I would tell all the girls that, though I know that there are very many more girls, but these are great opportunities. And I also realized that somewhere on campus, I learned how to distinguish between the choices we make and kind of see an opportunity in everything that we do, whether it be a craft, sports, or whatever it is that you're involved in. I happen to be GSEC and mess secretary in college, working with the mess staff. I think somewhere we realized that no work was too low. You could be in the kitchen, you could be measuring out grocery, you could be in the toilets, kind of figuring out are they clean. So all of that was part of everything that we learned. And I think that's held me in good stead, especially the kind of work we do where we are working with fishermen, plumbers, contractors, welders, and you need to, and governments. You have to cover the entire 360. I also think we were blessed with beautiful natural surroundings. I'll never forget the walks around Pavai Lake, Bihar Lake. Now, when I look back, I want, or the treks that people would just go off on any of the weekends. In fact, our first introductory trek was when the Nijis, that were the fourth yearites who took us out on a freshies trek. It was quite amazing. My friend Bindu and I were out on it, and our experiences, I'm sure she would also recollect. So I think it kind of exposed you to nature, not in a direct way. I mean, we didn't think of climate change or any of those problems then. It was just something to explore and enjoy. And last but not the least, I think it was also about the safety that you felt on campus. So, in my entire 4 years, there were various experiences, but even though there was RG or people competing with each other, trying various things out, I always felt very secure knowing that someone had my back. It could be my friends in the hostel in H10, or it could be the guys in civil, professors. In fact, in the final year, there was a serious accident that I was part of. The college stepped in even before my parents could come in. The friends stepped in. So I think there is a very nurturing kind of environment. You feel safe, you feel secure, you have an opportunity to explore various aspects of your own personality. And in any case, those are lovely years. 18 to 22, or whichever age that you come into college. And so I'm extremely thankful to IIT Bombay for, and also when I speak to some of my other friends coming out of school, a bunch of us were doing similar things, but our lives went on their own trajectories based on the choices that they made. And some of them even went to other IITs. But I think IIT Bombay specifically has that something special, whether it was the timings for the girls' hostel, girls allowed out at night, or whatever, the lakes, the just the freedom and the confidence that the campus placed on you. I think that helped me be who I am, or kind of, I wouldn't say identify my goals, but kind of set a lot of things straight for me. So I'm extremely indebted. Thank you.
Thanks, Shubha. And it's lovely to see, as you all have been speaking, the images of IIT come back in the mind, with terms like RG Giri or, the Chinese corner late night sessions, etc. It's really lovely to see that. Sharda, how about you?
Yeah, well, like you, Shalini, I sort of went down the engineering trajectory also because of the inspiration of my father, who's former atomic energy chairman. And so he used to take me to a lot of the nuclear installations and so on. So actually, I want to emulate him when I first, got into IIT. And that was also part of what drove me, engineering, physics, and so on. But I think what the fascinating thing about the exposure that we had at IIT was such that I really was able to actually uncover what I would say was my real calling and so on, because I also, of course, had this background, I was very much in touch with the arts and culture and so on as a Bharatanatyam dancer. And so much as I, enjoyed quantum mechanics and so on, but I started realizing that I needed to actually maybe do something more applied. And that's where the program that I did, engineering physics, was actually quite useful, because, there was a lot of emphasis also in applied technologies. And then I started reading about the spectrochemical analysis of artifacts and so on. And so that became something that I thought could be a future opportunity for somebody like me to tie in these interests of wanting to study artifacts and cultural objects, and at the same time use, frontline technologies. And then, so that in a way influenced my choice of archaeological sciences and archaeometry and so on. And of course, the exposure in IIT, we were taught welding, and we had also, of course, quite a decent background in materials engineering and metallurgy and civil engineering and all of those. So those are also very important in terms of the discipline of conservation of archaeological heritage, or, materials characterization. And then when I went on to do my doctoral work in London at the Institute of Archaeology in the Department of Materials Conservation and so on in archaeology. So then I applied some of these techniques like lead isotope analysis in the characterization and the provenancing of South Indian bronzes and Chola bronzes and so on. And then another part of my study has also been on the iron and steel legacies and the crucible steel making processes. And I should say, actually, the my tilt towards archaeology also was something that, as somebody pointed out, of course, I always had a very adventurous streak anyway. And, there was a lot of exposure with my family. Of course, we're very liberal, and we traveled a lot to monuments and all that. But, even being in IIT, and at that time, I think it was a 1:17 ratio or something, where, there is a woman as a minority, you start actually, that made me very independent, and, you start fending for yourself. And as Shiba was mentioning, bicycling around the campus at 2 a.m. and this and that. And, we used to even go for swims in the lake. Of course, in those days, it was not built up so much. It was much more, kind of not crowded and things. Now I think it's got very built up. So it doesn't, maybe it was more secluded in that sense. And also, I did have the opportunity to keep up with some of the artistic interests and so on, because I remember the PAF, the Performing Arts Festival, which I used to get roped into doing and everything. And so there was a lot of buzz about those kinds of events. So I think I did manage to actually, keep a lot of my diverse interests going with all of the, very technical focus, which was also a very great thing. And also the library, again, which used to be open very late. And what is wonderful, of course, is as well as the computer center and so on. But what was wonderful also is that the library also is very diverse. And even in those days, one could read a lot of good books on history and philosophy of science, for instance, and C.P. Snow and the question about bringing together the two cultures and so on. So a lot of this kind of, reading material was, readily available. So, you could shape a certain philosophical approach as well, in the study of history of science and technology. And of course, I was also influenced indirectly by, my uncle who was in IIT Kanpur. Of course, he went on a bit more into the aspect of traditional science and technology and so on. But they did actually have a cell also at IIT Bombay, which was looking at appropriate science and technology, because then I was getting interested in trying to document the traditional, artisanal technologies and so on, which is then what has shaped a lot of my work in archaeometallurgy. And in fact, I should just say I was just been informed that I also got the INE, Indian National Academy of Engineering's Woman Engineer of the Year for this year. So anyway, but so some of this interest in looking at the artisanal technologies and the metal crafts, there was also a cell there working on appropriate technology. And I remember taking these buses and going off to Karjat and, these Adivasi blocks and so on, doing all these very adventurous things, which I think because we didn't see ourselves as any less than the men, going out and doing all these things. So I think we certainly developed a certain kind of confidence and all that, which has always, I think, stood us in good stead later. I mean, for instance, even when I was in London, quite often people would say, oh, you lived in Bombay, or, I mean, you lived in India, because they don't expect, they have the stereotypical notion of what Indian women should be like and behave like and so on. So, I mean, we didn't conform to any of those stereotypes and so on. So I think that was the great advantage of, which has really kind of shaped who we are and the personalities we become. And I think I see that with a lot of my, women colleagues from IIT and so on, that they've all, chosen to really live life on their own terms, and that's really wonderful. So.
Okay, thanks, Sharda. So we only have about 6 minutes left. So the next question is, can you talk about one major challenge you have encountered personally or professionally and how you overcame it? So we can just quickly go to all three of you. So Shalini, do you want to start? Sorry, you're on mute, Shalini.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for unmuting me. Let's see. The biggest challenge. It's hard to say. This whole concept of, here's something that may be helpful for the audience as well. The one, I think a lot of us women, we always have a hard time. How do you manage between family and work, and how do you do justice to both? I think that's always a challenge that I hear even today with the younger colleagues that I have at Google. They often come to me for advice. And the one thing that Shibani and I, in fact, had discussed a long time ago is the way that to always think of your career path and your life journey is like a car. Let's say you're taking a car, and of course, I'm from Pixar, so I'll take the example of Cars, the movie. And if you think about, the racing car that was very ambitious and really wanted to get very, very far, and he got trapped on Route 66, I think it was, and he found a whole spirit and camaraderie there that helped him slow down, just rethink about life and how to balance between friendships and closeness and ties. And then that entire community came behind Lightning McQueen and really helped him even prosper even further than he had ever thought that he could do by himself. And I think that's really the challenge that a lot of us face, is how do we balance our family, our friendships, society, and all of the work that we do for the community around us with our own ambitions and careers. And the one thing that I've always seen is taking the time to really establish relationships, friendships, making sure your family is really well settled. That actually helps push your car even faster on the career path, because you have that support always with you. And so I think that that's always been the challenge, is how to balance. and always understanding for ourselves that, at some points your car goes really, really fast, and that's great. And it's at times you need to slow down and just enjoy the scenery, enjoy your relationships, really make sure that they're strong, and then that helps propel you even faster at times. So I would say that has always been the challenge, is balancing, and always the spirit of, hey, it's okay. At times you go slow, at times you go really, really fast, because there's an entire community behind you. I think that's always been the biggest thing that I've kept with me, and that's always been the guidance that I've given to everyone who comes to me, is one step at a time. Make sure you're spending the right amount of time with everything around, because life is a balance and you have to maintain it.
Wonderful. Thanks. Shubha, did you want to share one challenge?
Yeah, much like this personal and professional, the balance. So I think I'll pick on something else. I think the challenge for me, especially in the line of work that we currently do, which is really about getting the city to manage its water sustainably. And the biggest challenge is that we see ourselves working very hard. You see a lot of action happening, but you sometimes realize that you're still where you are, where you started. Things are not getting any better. So if you look at climate change, global warming, I see them as real problems, challenges that kind of dishearten you sometimes, because you're trying to do, there are a few lakes that you can look at, some communities that you work with, but you feel like you're really not getting anywhere. So again, I think I would go with, so perhaps we have to try the best that we can. And it's not exactly falki chinta mat karo. Of course you care about the result and you wish things could get much better, and you have to keep trying. But sometimes when you have to just learn to take yourself a little lightly, realize there's so many other people trying similar things, and just kind of appreciate the journey, like she said, or the small things in life, and keep yourself grounded. And I think all of that IIT has actually taught us in various ways. It's like your NSEMs in a way. How much ever you tried, you're not really quite making it, but you still try quite as hard. And then with whatever you get, you try and make the best that you can. Of course, these problems are much more complex than the NSEMs itself, but yeah, so that's how I have dealt with it, to kind of realize that it's not me alone. Take yourself lightly, enjoy the ride, and do whatever it is that you can. Thank you.
Super proud of your work. And yeah, last, Sharada.
Well, yes, I would say that in my case, I'd like to dwell on the challenges that, because I've been in a niche area in a way where, I'm trying to straddle, one leg in material science and another in art and archaeology. And that itself, it has been a great challenge. And I think the gender dimension, where STEM disciplines are concerned, certainly it was, a challenge in earlier times, in subtle ways sometimes. I won't say in very overt ways. Like, for instance, once when I landed up to do field work to go to this mining area somewhere in Guntur, I mean, the guy was so startled when he saw me, because he thought it was a Mr. Sharda Srinivasan who was coming when I was doing my PhD. He had no idea it was a lady, and she was quite flustered that, make the arrangements and things like that. So, you have to realize, you have to warn them beforehand that, it's not a male scientist that they're expecting or something. And and of course the challenge, of course, of doing working in a field like this in India is also quite considerable, because on the one hand you need very high tech analytical equipment, you need electron probe microscopes and this and that to look at the materials, and the archaeologists only allow you to take very small samples and so on. So it's a battle, and then raising resources again, because it's a niche area in India. So I won't say it's been it is difficult, but the reward also for me is that I'm closer to my to the field work in a way, and also the artisanal technologies and the craft practices. For instance, some of my work has been on documenting some of the fading craft traditions, like the this Aranmula metal mirror making, which I found was of a very fascinating kind of specular alloy. And in the floods, for instance, in Kerala, a lot of those artisanal workshops have got affected, because even since we're talking about climate change, a lot of the artisanal workshops are by the riversides. They need the alluvial clay and so on. So I think we need to integrate into our pedagogy also more of these kinds of hands-on artisanal crafts and so on. So I think there was that kind of a slight disjuncture in IIT, where it was mainly, a bit more theoretical and lab-based. And I think nowadays, though, people do realize, that we do need to integrate these kind of practical approaches. For instance, at Nehas as well, we have a lot of these iron smelting, workshops and things to get, students and all that to do more hands-on things, and more of a role for subjects like experimental archaeology and so on. So I think that there are pedagogical challenges, of course, but the exciting thing is that, even to be a part of, let's say, the more mainstream, scientific discourse and so on, for people like us who choose to do more out of the box things, I think is very important and very exciting. So it's wonderful in that sense to be able to communicate all of this with all of you. And thank you for the opportunity as well.
Wow, thank you. This has been such an amazing conversation. Sharda, you graduated before I joined IIT, but I have definitely heard a lot about you, and lovely to hear this conversation today. Given that we are a little over on time, we did have one last question that we wanted to have each of you share with us. And if maybe in less than a minute, if you have any last thought that you want to share with this group here, we would love to hear it. And so, Sharda, starting with you.
Well, to have the last word, I think the idea of networking and mentoring is very important, especially for women, because maybe in our times we did not have enough women as role models, certainly in the STEM disciplines, to reach out to. So we need to kind of reach out and mentor and be there as role models. So I think this is also very important. And for instance, when I got the Padma Shri, when I was asked, I said, well, the most important thing for me is the fact that there could be like other women who could look up and say that, these are the kinds of places that I can also reach. So we do need to put ourselves out there, even if we seem aggressive or whatever about it, to showcase our achievements, if only for this, that it can actually make a difference and, inspire other women and young girls and so on, apart from, of course, humanity at large and so on, not to exclude the males, of course. But anyway, so thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sharda. Shalini?
First of all, Sharda, congratulations on so many of the awards that you've gotten. I will say it's such an inspiration to see that and to see the success of you and of all of our fellow women IITians. And that is what inspires, I think, all of us to keep going. So definitely agree with you. Like the biggest takeaway that I would have for this audience is lean on all of us, lean on this network of amazing women, IIT women, colleagues that you have. We are all here looking out for each other. I mentor a lot of people. I am happy to mentor any of you who may be interested. Please feel free to reach out. But also just, talking to each other, understanding how did your careers develop? What are the struggles that you have that probably 10 more of us have faced it, and we've had creative ways to actually help ourselves and help each other through it. And so that it takes a village is really the mentality that I always go with. So always seek out, this is a village that we have from IIT. Seek us out, and really we're all here to help each other.
Thanks, Shalini. And Shubha?
I think I echo the sentiments, but I'll also go with the younger women IITians to say that do see what's happening around you while we will be doing a set of jobs and things that we are involved in. Uh, but there's a lot that can be done in the world outside as well. So back yourself. The thoughts that you all have, feel free to share. Sometimes we hold back. I'm so glad Sharda could share her achievements, because oftentimes we are a little hesitant, or we don't want to say it, but I think it's important, because it's only when we share that people know about it. And like she mentioned, other girls feel inspired that this is something that we could be doing too. So thanks, Sharda, for that. But yeah, that, and the other thing is just go out, back yourself. If you have thoughts, I'm sure all of us have, well, do not hesitate to kind of back whatever you think it is that you want to do. You will all do well. And like in the Pixar stories, it'll all be well in the end. So back yourself up and hold close to family and friends. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Shubha, Shalini, and Sharda. This has been an amazing conversation. Really, really enjoyed it. We will be moving to the next panel, but I'm hoping you can stay
Thank
on
you,
for the rest of
Sita.
the
Thank
session
you,
as well.
Shalini. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Shibani.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
This was really, really amazing to see. Thank you for putting it together.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
So unfortunately, we won't have time for questions. I see some of you raising your hands. So we have to move to the next panel. And it's my pleasure to now introduce Shibani Joshi as the moderator of our next panel. Shibani is an experienced technology journalist who has worked with media outlets like ABC News, Fox News Channel, Yahoo Finance, and Huffington Post. She holds an MBA from Harvard Business School. And this is the cool part. Her father is a 1967 IIT Bombay graduate. It was in his second year at IIT that we admitted our first batch of women. So the first 5 trailblazing women were admitted that year to the newly created 5-year BTech program. It's therefore fitting that we have his daughter leading our next panel, which is Young Rock Stars. Welcome, Shibani.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here today. I don't think I would have ever gotten admission into IIT Bombay, but my father has told me legendary stories throughout my entire life. So I do feel that IIT runs through my blood in my family, and I'm just honored and pleased to continue the tradition now in this venue. I'm excited to talk to these 3 women, and I was very inspired by the conversation that I came on here and would love to continue the themes of finding inspiration, finding lessons, and also make time for people to answer questions. I am available here on the chat, so if you want to send me questions, I can bring them to our panel throughout the discussion. But let's start by introducing everybody first. The first one I want to introduce is Ahana Gautam. She's the CEO and founder at Open Secret. It's a brand on a mission to make every Indian family snack better by unjunking their favorite snacks. I hope you will come to the United States and bring me some of those soon. She has global experience working with P&G and General Mills, and is an experienced operator with the passion to build and grow the biggest consumer brands in India. She has a BTech from IIT Bombay and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Next, we have Nehas Singh. She is the co-founder of Traction, a private market intelligence platform. Prior, she was a venture capitalist at Sequoia Capital and was with Boston Consulting Group. She also did her BTech and MTech at IIT Bombay, where she graduated with Institute Silver Medal. She also got the Google Women in Engineering Award. She holds an MBA from Stanford and has been awarded the Fortune 40 Under 40 by Fortune India magazine and the Award for Outstanding Women by Outlook Business. Finally, we have Bindu Reddy. She's the CEO and co-founder of Abacus AI, the world's first cloud AI platform. Having previously been with Amazon and Google, Bindu is an experienced leader in the deep learning AI field. We know that's a huge opportunity right now. Bindu has a master's degree from Dartmouth, a BTech degree from IIT Mumbai. Welcome to everybody. So I want to kick things off with fond memories. Bindu, I want to start with you. What is your favorite memory of IIT Bombay in this very reflective weekend? Everybody's coming together, thinking about their experiences. What memory, I know there's many, but what one memory can you bring to our group that most sticks out to you?
Shibani, thanks so much for having me. And it's very great to see all of you all, especially I don't think I've ever been in a group of so many IIT women ever before. So super happy to be, hanging out here. In terms of memories, this is our 25th year reunion, and all of us batchmates are really congregating together on digital Zooms lately, talking about our past and talking about our days at IIT. And I would say one of my favorite memories, especially being a woman, was that I was in IIT as a chemical engineer, and I was really into computer science. A lot of my batchmates will remember in my first year, I wanted to kind of get a change to computer science. I didn't make it because I was partying way too much. But over over the years there, one of my favorite memories has always been going to cyber, which was our computer lab then, and having late at nights, basically around like 11 p.m. and like staying there sometimes till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. hanging out there, hanging out with all of the batchmates, going out to like some of the cafes there. We had a cafe there called Shinko's, and like not just like hanging out and playing computer games, learning programming, but also hanging out with our batchmates and building kind of like relationships. I don't believe that, especially in that time in India, that this was in 1996 or 1994 to 6, that women were even allowed to like, literally go out at night. We not only were hanging out at night, but we were like really bonding with various different types of people, meeting new people, and learning a lot in the process. So I would say hands down that those were my best kind of moments there.
Yeah, the social activities and the bonding and the partying also.
Yeah.
Hannah, what about you?
Firstly, I have to say, so excited to be a part of this program and to be on this panel. I was just hearing the first panel, and it just made me so nostalgic, just hearing about like PAF or hearing about NSEM and MidSEM. I would say like the best memories is definitely the hustle outside the classroom. I was also earning, like I was very involved in PAF, which is like Performing Arts Festival, whether it's having night outs with your team and preparing for the PAPs, or whether it's like studying at till 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. for your NSEM, just trying to figure out what all courses you need to do, or whether I was also part of the entrepreneurship cell. So, organizing flagship events and you haven't slept 2 nights in a row. So I think definitely the hustle experience with a group of like-minded people is something that comes to my mind.
Absolutely. Neha, what about you?
Thanks, Shibani, firstly, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And, like Anna was mentioning, it's amazing to hear the stories of so many people that, I thought I was missing out all this while, so firstly, great that this was organized. In terms of my fond memories, I would say, during my time, the whole internet actually started in IIT. So in the first year, for instance, no one had a computer. In the second year, a few of us had computers. In the third years, nearly everyone had like computer in their room, and then internet in their room. Earlier, you had to go to the lab and do that. And and then people realized that people are spending a lot of time inside. So they actually cut the internet for like 2 hours in the evening so that people can come out and socialize. So I think my fond memories are IITs without having internet in your rooms and without cell phones. That was the time wherein you have nothing to do, and after hours or wherever you're doing, that's the time wherein you're bonding, like you are chatting with all the people in the hostel. You are like having good conversations. I think those were my most fond memories, that life without internet in IIT.
It feels like a different lifetime ago almost, without all of that capability and instant access. The name of this panel is Rock Stars. Each of you have been chosen as a rock star young graduate, and are so accomplished in so many different ways, which the panel and everyone here heard. I want to hear about, every generation and every generation of women take on different challenges, new approaches. We build on the backs and the struggles and the successes of everyone who came before us. What are your biggest challenges right now? What is it that is top of mind for you as you go out and have a career, maybe you have a family, you're trying to balance yourself and do other things? What are the struggles that keep you up at night? I'll start with you, Bindu.
Thanks. Yeah, so right now, as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of a company called Abacus AI. It is a deep learning AI platform. And, lately we've been, busy fundraising. Good news, we're announcing, in some ways, this is the first group I'm announcing this to. We actually managed to raise another very big round. And now we do have a pile of money, but, getting money is like the least of the problems when it comes to building companies. The big problem that we do have now is to actually scale this company. I mean, it's one thing, this is my second startup, and getting a startup from scratch to building a product and generating revenue is one thing. Now taking it through an inflection point and growing that company into something meaningful is a very, very difficult part of basically the startup journey. And doing that right now is a big challenge for me, especially because we're in a space which is highly competitive. Every big tech is competing with us. And if you think about it, companies like Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft have resources which are unimaginable for a startup like us. So not just kind of in terms of getting the right talent, organizing that talent, and also building product which people will use is a huge challenge. And doing that as a woman in a very technical space is even more challenging, because it's very easy because of unconscious bias, not even because people have intentional bias or anything like that, to write us off in some ways. And I don't want to do a disservice to my employees just because I'm a woman. And so making sure that I succeed for them, if nothing else, is something which keeps me up at night.
Oh, it's a huge task you have at hand, and a lot on your plate, it certainly sounds like. Ahana, what about you?
Shibani, I would say that, the biggest challenge, and that this is something which has stayed consistent, I won't say that at this phase of life, is keep evolving yourself. I would, and at Open Secret, we have grown 10x in last 1 year. Every 3 months, we're becoming a new company. And the most important thing is, how are you transforming yourself? How are you scaling yourself every single month, because you're becoming a different company? And I think as a CEO of this company, the question I ask myself, am I becoming a better CEO every single day? And I would say that, IIT Bombay actually prepared for that foundation. I grew up in a really small city in Rajasthan called Bharatpur. When I came to IIT Bombay, I didn't know how to speak in English. I didn't even know how to, have a conversation with someone, what to wear, absolutely no idea. So it was a big transformational experience, because the one learning which stayed with me, surround yourself with really smart folks. And that is one principle which I still continue at Open Secret, that, don't be scared of being the smartest person in the room, even if you are the CEO of the organization. And I saw the power of learning from your peers at IIT Bombay, which I'm trying to continue, and try and build one of the best teams at an early stage startup at Open Secret.
Great advice there. Neha, what about you?
So in terms of my sort of biggest challenge, I would say, the continuous thing, I would actually, it's sort of similar to what Ahana was mentioning. That currently, for instance, we have a company which is, like 600 people. We are just in the process of listing, in India. So, I think as, outside college, it's very contained. I would say your milestones are defined. That that if you're doing good on these things, your performance. But I think out there, when you are, in the corporate more setup, the things are not defined. So how do you basically, define your own boundaries, and how do you constantly keep learning? And, you never fall back saying that you know enough, or, never have that overconfidence. And I think in every phase, you have to, even as you scale yourself, there are new set of challenge, or there are new set of learnings that you have to do at different scales. So I think that is the constant thing that is there, that, just, constantly keep learning and never fall back, that, everything.
That's so true. And we've got some comments here. I like to bring them in. We have someone chiming in saying that we only had one payphone in H10 for 150 girls, and the coins always got stuck, referring back to the days before internet connection. And then IIT has transformed us completely, which has helped us overcome our drawbacks, right? And that is the power of powerful institutions like IIT in terms of opening doors and overcoming challenges. So as you think about, Ahana, your challenges that you have, what could this group that we're talking to and other support groups do to help better connect, support, reach your goals? What's sort of the missing factor here that this group could be a part of?
I think that's a great question, Shibani. I think whenever we talk about, supporting women, I think most of the conversations are around resources and tools and coaching. And I would say the most powerful thing are stories of rock star women who have broken all the glass ceilings. Because I truly believe what you really need to show maybe young engineers or young girls that sky's the limit. And now I think, for example, like Neha's story is so inspiring to me. She has been running a very successful startup. She has been breaking a lot of glass ceilings, and I think and I'm so glad that we are doing these conversations where we can hear other smart stories, because that enables everyone to dream big. And if I can do one thing, it's just to share more and more stories, because I truly believe if you give this dream big idea to every young girl, they will have the fire within themselves to figure out any tools and any resources.
Neha, do you want to pick up on that? And how do we think about incorporating the next generation too?
Right. So I would totally agree to that. I think that is something that is very helpful. And I would say, like just candid stories and behind the scenes. And there are a lot of queries that typically people have. So, for instance, just in the, for specifically talking about women, there is dropout that, you typically see, for instance, like at childbirth or, something else in your career. There are some phases, wherein you see, you have difficulty in figuring out what next, and just having, sort of a platform wherein you can have, questions, and you can have sort of people candidly talk about, these things. I think that would be super helpful. And hearing it from, a peer who has had a similar set of experiences, I think that is something which, that is something very interesting, because you can connect to them. I think just having sort of more opportunities, either professionally or any of the queries. I think a lot of us have gone through the same sort of things, and a lot of us have figured out some hacks for ourselves, and just sharing of that, that would be amazing.
Great. Bindu, anything you want to add there?
So at the risk of being a little controversial, let me say this. Over the last few years, maybe 3 or 4 years, I think we're doing a lot more of these kinds of sessions, which are great. I think women are coming together, which is really wonderful. But when I grew up, and I think even right after that, I would say if people are like, oh, why are there so, women there is so much bias against women, or women are having troubles, etc. Of course, the men should be like, supportive, resourceful, and so on. But what I did notice, especially like I said, I would say a decade ago, and I think there's a little bit of this today as well, is women aren't actually that helpful to each other. They are actually, when it comes to actually over-accomplished women, there's jealousy amongst them. There's kind of like, I'm going to be like better off than you are. I am more accomplished than you are. And that actually, brings people down, right? And so that's something which I think as women, if we are very aware of that, and we are actually supportive of each other in any cohort, I think it gets much better. I think we all get better for that. Let's even take, like, say the graduating IIT batch right now. Presumably there are 30 women. If those 30 women really stuck together, really kind of like figured out that they should be watching each other's backs, I think we'll go a long way. And I think women are getting there. I'm not suggesting that we are somehow completely like, fighting with each other or anything, but I think it takes a conscious kind of like effort to do that. Part of that is because we are also accomplished. We get a lot of attention, right? And then it's this kind of like vying for attention kind of dynamic, which happens sometimes. Just like overcoming that, I think would be great.
I love the controversy. That's what we're here for. It makes things interesting. And I think that you're right, Bindu. I think part of what we're shifting in this generation is this concept and constraint that there's only room for so many women and so many people at the table. So inherently that competition, if you take the space, then I don't get it. But now we're entering an era where that's not true, that we can make more spaces at the table, that there are not constraints in terms of how many women can be at the table. So as we think about shifting that mindset, what do you think is going to be instrumental in doing that? How are you doing that now within your own organization? And we're getting comments, Veena here is saying Zoom makes it more possible, more collaboration is key. We have technology, you're developing AI technology. I mean, where do you see the potential and the potential for women, given everything that you've seen so far?
Sure. honestly, this is a great start right here. I think this is really wonderful. Zoom collaboration is great. I started something called, women founders here in Silicon Valley to hang out with other women founders just before COVID. Unfortunately, we haven't hung out in person since then. We've done some Zoom calls. At our company, we also have something which is really targeted to young women. We have this women's internship program where we, at every single point in time throughout the year, we have anywhere between 4 and 5 girl interns who are all, where we focus the internships on them learning computer science, AI, and so on, so that in the future they actually decide to take computer science as one of their, one of their disciplines, as well as kind of become AI technologists. So I think everybody kind of going out of the way to do this will be very helpful, and it actually pays back in spades, because if you hang out with other women leaders, if you help them and if you make the first step, if you take the first step, they will actually respond, and they are, women that way are very reciprocal. So I think starting somewhere is, is what we need to do.
Ahana, do you have anything?
No, I firstly cheers to the sisterhood. I think that's exactly what we need. And I do agree with Bindu, but I'm also very optimistic with the change I'm currently seeing in the ecosystem. Like yesterday, I was added to a WhatsApp group, which is female founders. And I think, Neha, you are also a part of that group, right? So I think we're moving in the right direction. And just to give you an example, I recently hired a chief growth officer, and she was my classmate. She was also a chemical engineer, graduated with me. So hopefully with these conversations, we will be able to create the sisterhood that we absolutely need.
Neha, what about you?
So I think I would agree with Bindu and Ahana that I think we it's good to start somewhere. I think this is very popular in I guess USB schools, which is people alums coming back sharing their stories, and then like even in the sessions you have alums talking about it. I think just getting that started will probably just set the loop.
And I want to open it up to the audience. If you have any questions, put them in the chat function here, and I can bring them to our group. And we're running a little bit over, and we'll start to wind things down shortly. But I want to ask each of you what your definition of success is, and how much it's changed from your time at IITB, because life changes, maturity happens, failures, successes happen, and we evolve and we grow. So I'm curious to know, Neha, I'll start with you. What is your definition of success right now?
I think that's a really difficult question, but to take a crack at this, I think at the end of the journey, you feel satisfied that you have done enough and you have achieved, or it's not about so much of an achievement that you can manage, but it's more about that you have done enough that you could do, so you feel satisfied. I think that is the success, that is a benchmark of success, both professionally as well as personally. That you've done enough for in terms of your family circle, you've done enough professionally, as much as you could do, and then obviously things kind of take its own shape outside.
Internal metrics, right? Bindu?
For me, it used to be, I think it tends to be some normal, some number. People think of like, how much have I made? What, what's my level at which company, or like, have I gotten into IIT and what's my JE rank? It's turned into something very different. I think it's about whether you are happy. Success and happiness, I think, are very correlated. If you're happy with where you are, what you're doing, how you're contributing back to society, I think you can call yourself very successful.
Wonderful. Ahana, what about you?
I would say, to be very, very honest, given this is like a very candid conversation, I have definitely changed a lot. When I was in IIT, somehow the dialogue was more about building a resume. And I was also part of that rat race. But having different experiences, and especially spending some time at HBS, and I think, Shibani, you would resonate with this, that HBS's mission is to make a meaningful difference in the world. And when I think about my journey, I don't know if there will be any other girl who had the opportunity to go from Bharatpur to Bombay to Boston, right? I understand my privilege. of having this amazing education. And I was able to do it because I had a rock star mother who actually gave me wings to fly, and never questioned me about settling down even before starting my startup, which a lot of people did. So for me, the success is about purpose, and the purpose is building something and giving back. Even when I'm building Open Secret, we are building this brand for mothers, and we truly want to create an ecosystem where we are bringing more and more women and especially mothers on this journey, whether it's manufacturing, which is completely in-house, done by women from local communities, whether it's a mother program where you're bringing back mothers just with flexibility, all of that. I think each one of us who had this experience should take giving back as a responsibility and not as a choice.
Yeah, we all have enjoyed privileges on so many different levels, and turning it into meaning and purpose is something I think everyone in this group can relate to and is thinking about now, particularly in these times. Thank you to the three of you. I'm going to turn it back over to Sunita. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation and including me in it. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks a lot, all of you. And so I'll turn it to Shibani, actually, because we're going to do a preview of the Gen Zero project.
Yeah, thanks, Sunita. And amazing conversation, amazing panel. Thank you, Shibani, Ahana, Neha, and Bindu. This was wonderful to hear your discussions. So as Sunita said, what we're going to move to now, we finished our 2 panel sessions. We're going to now move into sharing with you some updates of things that we're working on. And the first one, I heard a lot of you talk about stories and how do we highlight more stories. So I want to introduce a very exciting project that we're working on. The project is codenamed Gen Zero. We are looking at a new name for it. So we've launched a competition with IIT students, in particular women, to come up with a name for this project. But it's about highlighting the stories of women from IIT Bombay. And there's a group of us that have been working on this for about a year now to get this formulated. This includes, of course, DC Agarwal, Sunita, and then in addition, Anu Narsimhan from the batch of 1990, Damini Kumari from the batch of 1991, Rekha Wardhya from the batch of 1992, myself, and a core team from IIT Bombay. And the motivation for this was twofold. One is we started with the desire of wanting to inspire more women to join IIT Bombay. And the second is we wanted to spotlight the great work being done by women alumni, just alumni, rather. And just on a personal note, I'll share that, as I was talking to people and I would ask people who are some of the famous IIT alumni that you remember or alumni that you remember, I would hear a lot of male names come up, but very few female names come up. And so, we started going deeper and we realized that there's so many amazing things that women from IIT have done, and yet their stories have not come to the forefront. So the mission, as we started engaging on this initiative, is, like I said, twofold. One is to spotlight successes and stories and journeys of women, and the second was to highlight more women, younger women, to join into IIT. So, we're working through this. We're very excited to give you a teaser into what's being done. And over the course of time, you will see more coming out on this project. But with that, Sridhar, could we play the video? So this is a little teaser video that we put together last night, actually. So it's going to evolve and you'll see it being developed even further. But more exciting is what comes out of this, the stories of the women that you're going to hear. And this is going to be a living and breathing initiative where we want to continuously spotlight different women from different stages of life and also different disciplines and different fields of work so that people have a living, breathing memory of what all of us together are accomplishing. So stay tuned for more on that. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sunita to introduce our next guest.
Thanks, Shivani. I'm very happy to now introduce Amit Dixit, who's the head of Asia for Blackstone Private Equity. He's been with Blackstone for 14 years, leading various investment opportunities both in India and all of South Asia. Amit is from my batch, class of 1995, the silver medalist in civil engineering for our year. He also has an MBA from Harvard Business School and an MS in engineering from Stanford University. He serves on the board of several companies, including Emphasis, Aadhaar, and Akash Education. And what's exciting and especially relevant for us as women alumni of IIT Bombay is his recent sponsorship of the Institute's first woman faculty chair. The chair has been created through Amit's generous contribution to support the Institute in its efforts to honor outstanding women faculty members. So we're all very proud of Amit, and I'm happy that he's here today to address us and share his vision for the Amit Dixit Chair. Welcome, Amit.
Well, thanks, Sunita. Good to see you again. We're the same class, but we haven't met each other for 25 years. So good to see you. And thank you all for inviting me. This is a project which is something Gen Zero. I didn't know the name, but something. If I could have chosen, a project or a name, that'll be something very similar because I'm very passionate about it. So that's why when I started with my program on how to make a difference to IIT, I was very passionate about the women's program at a professional level and at a personal level. So personal level first. I have two daughters, 17 and 15, who have very little interest in STEM. And I just keep questioning them. They're in school and they don't have that much interest in science and technology. And what I realize is they don't see other people they look up to as role models who they aspire to be in STEM. And I think that's the core of the issue. That's the crux of the issue. I experienced that in my job. As Sunita mentioned, I run Blackstone across Asia. We have a lot of women in our organization, but very few women leaders. And what we have seen is often we start with a lot of women, but a lot of women fall out of our workforce because they don't see the path, they don't see the leaders. So I think it's important to create that role models at the top of the pyramid, and so that the people who are coming up can see up to that. At Blackstone, we believe in that entire diversity. We think a diverse workforce makes for better decisions. I see that in my own household. So there's a personal reason, a professional reason. Now coming to IIT. IIT, when I started my engagement with IIT on how to contribute, my first thought was, let's contribute towards a cause so that more women can enter the IIT institution. To my surprise, what I found out was actually this was not a big problem. A lot of women were getting into IITs, but the conversion rate was low. A lot of women who actually get into IITs, they get the admission, they don't actually take the admission. The conversion rate is low because the parents don't want them to go to a far off cities, things like that. So what I'm sponsoring is I'm doing a dual thing. At the bottom of the pyramid, I'm sponsoring a conversion cell. So the women who get into IIT, there is going to be a conversion cell of people who are going to call them, email them, talk to their parents, encourage them to just join the IIT. So I'm not trying to solve the problem that more women should go to IITs. I'm just trying to solve the problem that women who get into IIT join the IITs. So that's the bottom of the pyramid problem. Then the top of the pyramid problem is, how do you create STEM role models, women professors, women leaders? Like they asked me, please name your chair after a women STEM leader. I couldn't come up with anyone. I couldn't. I'm like, who's a women STEM leader I would name my contribution after? So I'm going to name this contribution after my mother because of all the things she has done for me. But the bigger point is that how do you create those STEM leaders? So with this gift, what I'm trying to do is only among the women faculty at IIT, this is going to be a chair, and all the women STEM faculty members at IIT Bombay can apply for this grant. And it's based on academic credentials, based on research credentials, based on how they perform in this process. And that's how it's going to go about. So anyway, this is the first year, and we are currently in the interview process of the women professors who have applied for this. So hopefully this is a start. I don't know anything about this. This is new. So hopefully this is a positive start. We can encourage women faculty to take the grant and they shine as STEM leaders. Hopefully that makes other women who are studying to become STEM leaders, and hopefully eventually, like my daughters, they actually see those inspiration leaders and more women come into the STEM workforce.
That's great, Amit. And it's beyond that. I think there's just so many more now who are inspired to do something like you. So you've started the conversation. That itself is a huge outcome of your generous contribution.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Great, Amit. Did you have any few words of inspiration for the younger women alumni? Otherwise, we can just, I know it's late for you in India.
Yeah, I know it's late, and I heard some of the, I joined 5 minutes early, so I heard the previous conversation. I will just share something which I believe in. I think the quality, I interview a lot of people all the time for jobs as CEOs of my company, CFOs at Blackstone. The quality I look for always is hunger. Be hungry. Yes, hunger and competence is a deadly combination, but I often have to make a choice between 8 on 10 hungry, 8 on 10 competent. I always choose hunger. So be hungry. Do not go for an excuse. Yes, to win, you have to want whatever it is, whether it's your startup CEO job, it's your next level at X company, whatever it is. The only encouragement, do not come up with an excuse, especially not an excuse around your family. Just be hungry. It's very competitive out there. Hunger is the scarcest resource. I don't know how to develop hunger in most people. I cannot develop that in my own daughters. So I'm preaching to something which I failed at my own home, but I would just give that 1 cent. If you have to optimize your career for one parameter, it's hunger. Be hungry, then you will be very successful.
Wonderful, Amit. Thanks a lot. And again, thanks for taking time on a Sunday night. Yeah, thank you. And so we'll move on to the next session.
Sunita, if you want, I can kick off the next session. Thanks so much, Amit. Lovely to hear your words and see all the great work you're doing. Stay hungry, stay foolish. That's, very appropriately said. So in the next session, we're going to open up to do a little bit more of an interactive discussion with everyone on the call. What we wanted to do was collect input, have a little bit of an interactive discussion around how do we stay engaged and connected as a group, and really get all your ideas and thoughts that can allow us to think through, this is one event, it's a start, and we're really happy to be able to put it forward. But it's also not just a one-time. We want to keep this as an ongoing piece of work. And so getting ideas from people would be wonderful. If you want to raise your hand or put it in the chat session, we'd like to keep this part of the discussion a little bit interactive. So anyone who has thoughts, maybe I'll call a couple of people. Anu, would you like to start with some of your thoughts? Anu, are you on the call? You are, and I can see that you're muted, so hold on.
Yes, I
Okay,
was
there
just
you go. We can hear you.
typing on the chat saying this is probably one of the few calls where I'm muted, and I think it's good to be muted once in a while. Otherwise, I can run away with the mic forever. I'm from the class of 1990, 86-90 IIT Bombay. The picture in my background is H10 as it is now. The road might be familiar to everybody here, but H10 today is a 13-story hostel. And somebody said 30 to a batch. No, we are close to 200 plus to a batch these days. So we are 20% in an undergrad batch and 24% at an overall IIT level. So things have come a long way, but a long way to go still. So I think that the title of this session is the reason we should be connected, and it's just conversations. No larger motives, no deeper motives, no ulterior motives. They will come. I think just being connected, just having conversations, just knowing each other, re-knowing each other. There's so many people, I can see on this call I can see Anupa, I can see Sarita, I can see Meena Mahajan. There's so many people. I'm like, shucks, why wasn't I in touch with before this event happened? And I'm so grateful for the event, and just that I want to say hello. And I'm sure along the way we'll find things that we'll do together. Shubha lives in Bangalore like I do, and I'd like to do something about water, and somebody was talking about many other things. So everyone who spoke today, and thanks to all of you who put this together, I think the reason to stay connected is we are a very precious lot. There aren't too many of us. So we do need to hold us together. There aren't too many of us. And I'm happy to host all of you, any of you. I recently started a new role, a job as faculty member at IIT Bombay. So anyone who wants to go back in time and visit old haunts, please ping me. You don't even have to give me too much notice. I've spoken to many, Sushma here, Sulu. I haven't managed to speak to Neela yet, but would love to speak to each one of you about what you do. So for me, there is nothing more, Shivani, than to say that conversations are what we thrive on. And conversations are best had when you can see the other person's face, even if it's on a video screen like this, and see some people nodding at us. And I'm sure we will all gain out of that conversation. Someone said it very nicely that we need to see stories and we can bring out those stories. But if you can bring them out in an interactive manner, nothing like it. So bow to you guys, do this more often, and come to IIT, and I'll host all of you for a chai and a cat session. So do come.
Thanks, Anu. And like you said, it's so wonderful. I'm seeing people on here, and it's just so wonderful to see such amazing friends and people that we've overlapped with during the years in IIT, but may not have necessarily kept in touch with as much. So that part itself is just so fulfilling. Others who want to share thoughts or ideas, I think we've said raise hands.
Yeah, so Shibani, Priya Gupta has her hand up. And Anu, thanks a lot. Love your enthusiasm with everything.
I think Ron has had his hand up. I just wanted to point that out. Yeah.
Okay. So shall we, I'm not sure who are we starting with? I think Sridhar, you're unmuting people.
Yeah, shall we go to Priya Gupta first?
Yeah, Priya was in the line.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Priya. I graduated in 2001 from engineering physics. Super excited to see this. It started at 8 in the morning, and I was talking to my mom on Skype, and I was like, Mom, I can't talk to you anymore. I need to do this event. This is like an amazing event. I think it's one of the first ones of its kind. Since you asked about how to best keep in touch, one of the things I remember from 3 years ago, somebody had organized an IIT Bombay meetup here in the Bay Area. And Shivani, that's where I met you. That's where I met Shalini. That's where I met Sunita. That's where I met so many people. And because it was in a smaller setting, I remember the people, I remember the conversations, and then we kept in touch. We connected on LinkedIn, we connected on a personal level also. And I feel like most of the time, the places and the way I make my best network is in smaller settings. I also have to admit, even though I was the only girl in my class and, you know, one of 4 women in the entire engineering physics department when I was at IIT, even now when there is an IIT Bombay event, I sometimes hesitate to go in because I know there won't be a lot of women there. Which is crazy because in my first job, I was the only girl in the entire company, you know, but I still feel like I'm very much more excited to go to an all women event. And so I think events like the ones we did where we met, Shivani, I think those to me are the key to bringing people together and keeping them in touch.
Wonderful. So should we go to Subhashi Rao?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm from the batch of 1987. I want to share a couple of things today that are all linked to the women team we have here. Firstly, today is the passing away anniversary of my mother, who passed away in 1990. And the reason I share that is she was the inspiration behind my joining IIT. I was just done with my 12th standard board exam. I was relaxing at home and reading books and stuff. And it was my mother who said, hey, why don't you just try out some entrance exam tests? And I was just sitting at home and just going through some of the tests. And why this is significant is I'm from Anushakti Nagar, which is a BARC colony. And I think Rupal and a few others on this call are from there. And before me, nobody else in Anushakti Nagar women in Anushakti Nagar had even applied for an IIT JEE. The assumption was it was just for men, right? The boys, I mean the guys. And it was my mother who just saw some spark in me and said, you know, why don't you just try, right? And I just went on a lark. I had no real expectations. I just went into the exam. I was happily came home and was very surprised to have got in. And so I want to really acknowledge her on this call, but also share that often we don't even try because we make assumptions, right? So how many women are out there who think this is not even for us and don't even try, right? And what was great is once I joined, then others like Rupal, who's on this call, and I really want to call her out, people like her started reaching out to me and saying, hey, you know, Subha, what is the process of getting into IIT, right? So it was a great opportunity to bring people who are interested in joining. We don't want to force it, but if they're interested, bring them into the circle. So I think that's one message I want to share. The second message I want to share is over the years, I've been very disconnected, actually. I came to the US in 1987, and I pretty much totally disconnected from my previous world. I was very busy here and a lot of things were happening. But one constant was my connection to my IIT H10 batchmates, many of whom are also on this call, and a shout out to all of them. Over the years, pre-WhatsApp, pre-smartphone, we stayed in touch. And now with WhatsApp and all the other media opportunities, we still stay in touch. And what's amazing is even if we have not talked for 20, 30 years, all we need to do is just say hello and pick up the phone, and instantly we are connected, right? There's a sense of bond, a sense of trust. And I think that is at the root of a lot of our network. It is that bond, it's that trust, it's that common journey we've gone through. And although here, one key point I want to make, and then I'll stop talking, but although here we are talking a lot about rock stars and accomplishments and very major successes, right? We shouldn't forget that everybody is successful. Everybody has survived. Everybody has accomplished something in their lives. You know, everybody has gone through struggles, right? And yes, okay, maybe not everybody achieved that highest pinnacle, but we are all successes in our own way. And all of us can bring something to this world, to the younger generation, right? So I just want to share that because I am impressed with all the people on this call, all my batchmates who, we've all gone through life and seen a lot, and we've all been very successful. So just want to end with that. And I really hope I can continue this connection with the IIT Bombay Heritage Foundation through all of you. A great event here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Subhashi. And I think you made a very profound statement, which I truly believe is that all of us are successes. We've all done really well, and everyone is a success. Just because we've highlighted some individuals, that was, more to just have some conversation starters. But I do strongly agree with what you said about all of us being really successful. And this is an amazing group of women.
Thank you.
Thanks, Subhashi. And so next person is Ron Mehta. If we can spotlight him, Sridhar.
Thank you very much. My legal name is Rohinton. Almost nobody calls me by that. I am a graduate of 1970 Hostel 5. And a big shout out to Sulu Kapoor, Neen Shanbag. She, I think, was still on the call. She was the only girl in our batch of 300. My main question was, even going back more than 50 years, there were at least 50% of the women in medical colleges in India were females. Unfortunately, IITs never achieved that ratio ever, or not even remotely close. So we need to ask that question. What does it take? Obviously, it means that women are totally capable because medicine is at least as competitive as engineering is. So why are we not able to achieve that? That's a question that needs to be asked. Second was what Amit Dixit mentioned about hunger is very true. I've been married to my kindergarten childhood sweetheart, a wife of almost 50 years. She is a physician who works 60 hours a week, even to this day. And hunger is all the time in her DNA. I've retired since 2013 when I sold my last company. And even when our two sons were growing up, who were both physicians, I used to take them out on vacations. So what I would urge all the alumna and the alumni of IIT Bombay to do is ensure that they insist that their husbands are equally participating in the upbringing of their children. Thanks a lot. This has been a wonderful webinar.
Thanks a lot. I'll call you Rohinton properly, not Ron Mehta, but I know you've been very actively involved with IIT BHF. So thanks for all your encouragement. I think the next person is Rita Atreka.
Hi, everyone. I think some of you will recognize me, and I was known as Rita Mehta when I was in IIT. It's good to see many familiar faces, some senior to me and a few junior to me. I graduated in 1989. As one of the previous speakers mentioned, I was influenced to join IIT Bombay because of my dad, who believed in me and unfortunately passed away even before I, just soon after I graduated, before I actually got my degree. But I was truly inspired because he didn't think of his daughter any different than his son. So I feel I was privileged, and I feel IIT Bombay really prepared me for my career. Though I've drifted away from science and more into in finance, I think all the learnings, all the math I did, all the stuff that made no sense to me at that time, the triple integrals and the derivatives, it all helped me a lot in my finance career. And the most important thing I learned was to be around so many men and to not get intimidated by them. So most of my career, I've been probably the only woman in most of the meetings, whether it's been on trade floors or in the boardroom. So I feel I could not have done without those 4 years in IIT Bombay. I think, as time has flown, I'm at that stage in my life and I'm looking to give back, and I'd love to be connected with any initiatives where, whether it's mentoring young women, whether it's helping people get on boards. I'm also interested a lot in diversity, climate change, some of the things that were mentioned. So as and when, we start taking shapes, I'd love to be part of the conversation. And I do want to give a shout out to my H10 batchmates from '89. We are a thick group. we support each other. We're constantly on WhatsApp, and if anyone needs a helping hand or just a word of encouragement, we're there for each other. But I think listening to everyone here, I think there's real opportunity for us to extend across our batches and join forces so that we can be more of a force for good. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita. And it's amazing, I don't think you've changed at all since IIT. You look exactly the same, and really appreciate that. I do think, even if I look at different batches, we're all very connected amongst our batches. And, like you said, extending it to other batches is really, really a great idea. So thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Wonderful. So the next person is Jignesh Patel.
Hi, everyone. Shout out to you, Shibani, dear old friend. First of all, this has been a great, couple of panels. It's just wonderful to see everyone. So great initiative here, and you all were, tremendously, basically trailblazers, I would say, in the STEM field. So my question, though, if I request, if somebody can address it, perhaps, is that what would you have liked to have seen be different during your time at IITB? And I know the experience of, say, the 80s and 90s graduates is probably different than that of the more recent graduates. So perhaps it's my request if, one of you from each sort of era can, or more, can address this question. And this kind of, the objective here is to see what IITB perhaps could do even better, despite all the great initiatives, in attracting more women to join the field of STEM. So that's my question out there, if anybody wants to.
So Shivani, want to try to answer that, or should we just table that for later?
Oh, I see Rita raising her hand. Rita, do you want to take that? And hey, Jignesh, great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
I'll give it a shot because I went back to IIT when it was us batches silver jubilee, and there was some discussion around this. And what I heard is that there are lots of women in India, particularly, going into STEM, but they just don't choose IIT. I mean, I think the percentage, and I haven't lived in India in the last 20 plus years, so not that close to it, but there are more women in other engineering colleges. And I think, as we heard from Amit, it's not because women don't get in. I think it's more the environment of feeling of safety and other concerns that parents have, and nurturing that, feeling of belonging, which I think even many of my batchmates suffered from. I think we all felt a bit excluded, and I think it's fair to say that men at that age are pretty awkward around women, so it wasn't a particularly welcoming environment. Anything we can do to make it more welcoming will draw out the women who are already qualified and very capable of succeeding academically, but it's more the inclusion, the belonging, and feeling, the social side is what we need to work on.
I agree with you, Rita. So I think, Jignesh, my response is I was the only girl in a class of 40. This was material science and metallurgy. I would even say it was hostel. So
yes,
like if you don't have a boyfriend, then you're pretty much on your own and you have to figure it out. It helps you later on in life. You become super independent and know how to fend for yourself, but it's not at all an inclusive environment. And the good news is, I feel, whether it's IITB, HF, or our current directors at IIT, they're all aware of what that underlying issue is. And one of the objectives of something like this is to kind of change that. But the short answer is, at least when I studied, it wasn't a fun place at all from that point of view.
I'd like to just add that I know a couple of my batchmates who feel very traumatized by the experience, and not because of academic, it's just the other sides of things.
Very good, thanks. So we can go to Rupa Ramamurthy.
Hello, I'm from the batch of, oops, I don't have my camera here. Let me see. Oops, I have a camera on the side. oops. So yeah, I'm from the batch of 89 chemical engineering. And I wanted to answer a couple of the questions. One was on why people go more for medicine than for, and I think the feeling is that medicine is more of a nurturing environment. You're nurturing patients, and engineering is kind of seen as more cutthroat in some ways. Like even when I was going in, it was like, oh, why didn't you go to medicine? And I'm really bad at dissection. I couldn't have been a good doctor as a surgeon. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is, like one of the things we did in chemical engineering was to write, like I think a whole booklet or whatever for future batches on what we learned, what is our advice for the future, for the incoming batch or some batches. And that might be a good thing for like any group to, like say an engineering physics group, to give like just a very candid thing to the incoming batches from what you've learned from so many years of life and living and career. And the third one I wanted to say, in terms of the other thing at IIT that was a little challenging, is like when we had our metal workshop or metal filing, the technicians there were drunk and stuff, and it was really hard as a woman to go in. And I'm sure those things would change, and I should shut up, but I think our batch also does Zoom for everyone's birthdays, the H10 batch. So bye. Sorry for that long.
No, thanks, Rupa. And then next, Sarita Adve.
Yeah, hi. So I was Sarita Arora at IIT Bombay. I graduated in '87. And well, thank you first for organizing this event. I have two things to share. The first is bad, and then but the second one, I'll end with an uplifting note. So the first one, I totally hear what everyone said about the sense of isolation, even though I did have a boyfriend who's now my husband, but still, the sense of isolation that we faced as women, just because we were surrounded by men who literally didn't know how to interact with women. In 2018, I went back. I was invited to give a talk at Tech Fest, and I was very excited about going back to IIT Bombay. But I have to say, I was, on the one hand, the show that the students put on was amazing, but I was really disappointed at what I saw. And I did send an email to the director at that time, and had some correspondence with the women's cell. And unfortunately, I couldn't follow it all the way through just because of, just too many demands on time. And I wish I had, but I didn't. So the things that showed up to me were, one, that I think there were about 23 speakers and only 2 were women, which is kind of ridiculous in this day and age. And second, some of the talks that I attended were just completely ridiculous in terms of the way they, just if you think about inclusion as a theme here, then they were anti-inclusive, not just for women, but all sorts of stereotypes. And I thought that was just completely not appropriate for something at IIT. And if anyone's interested, I can send you more details of what happened. But then the more disturbing thing was that I went to the hostel, the new hostel, just to get a sense of what things are like. I'm pretty active here with, passionate about mentoring women and doing things to make a change, just like many other women of our generation are. And I was really saddened to hear some of the stories that, women were still, one woman was almost crying, just the biases that she faced and so on. And so I did make it a point to get this out to the director and to, talk to whoever would listen. And it seems that the women's cell is doing a lot of work. So again, these are just point instances, but since the question came up of how to make things better, it seems like we still have things are better. There's a women's cell, and clearly the conversation today shows that we've come a long way from where we were in 1987.
But we apparently still have a long way to go. So let's not let up. If there's, I did drop the ball in 2019. I went there in 2018 December. But I would be happy to pick it up again if people want to organize, or if there's something we can do to get things to be better. We've done things in the US. I live in the US, and have been pretty active in these matters. So that was the downside, right? The upside, okay? So in spite of this, I joke with my husband that the reason we got married is because we were in this group of 5, lab team, and the other 3 did not know how to talk to me, right? And so I was just stuck with this guy, and that's how we ended up being married. But the funny thing is that, so this is sad, but my mom passed away recently in India, so I was there. This was due to COVID, peak of the Delta wave, just a terrible, terrible time in May. And one of my classmates from IIT Bombay, who I had never spoken to, right? Because we just didn't speak to the boys, right? He reached out, and oh my God, I mean, I had not ever talked to this guy, and he was just like, my dad says, Farishta, an angel from heaven, because he's a very high up IAS officer and has a lot of contacts. And this is the top peak of the Delta virus. Nobody can help anybody because everybody has COVID in their house, and I don't want to get COVID. So, there's just very, very limited resources. And my friend now, right now, he's my friend, Sudhir Bogde. It was just amazing. I mean, he was just, I wouldn't have survived without him. It was just crazy. So, the first part was kind of not so nice, but the second part just shows, even though we were not in touch, even though we didn't talk, there was something about being part of the same class that just saved me, is what I can say.
Thanks, Rita. I think men grow up 20 years after we do. So it all becomes okay at the end.
Yeah.
Good. So I think we have, so Kalyan, I see you have your hand raised. So if you can share whatever you want to in a minute, because we also have a poll that we need to share.
All right. I was in IIT from 1962 to 1967, much older than all of you. Now, first, I want to pay tribute to Swati Datta. She was a 69 MSc Physics, first batch. She was a rare polymath. She was a top nuclear scientist and also a top social activist. I will post her tribute on the IIT website one of these days. Second, somebody mentioned that somebody here is related to the first woman in IIT. Who is she? Who are you talking about? I'm curious. Somebody just said first woman in IIT is related to this person. Do you remember that? Anybody? All right, forget that. And to Amit Dixit, please tell your chairman, I know several dozen people who are his fan because of whatever he's doing for the world. And to Shalini ji, our first Hollywood connection, Bollywood connection in IIT was 1966 when Mahendra Kapoor came to the convocation hall. That was the first function in the convocation hall. Women don't go to engineering, they prefer medicine. So that's not very complicated, but otherwise admission issue is not there. Finally, you will be surprised how well those 4 women who were there at my time, starting with Tejaswini Shroff, were treated. Linda Sprague was the first woman to join MIT Engineering School. And she told me the environment was very toxic, including the dean. So IIT Bombay was a great place for women even at that time, although there were very few. On the other hand, in a place like, again, the same MIT, the business school, the first woman was an Indian, Asha Seth Kapadia. She recently passed away, and I knew all of them very well. It was a different environment. So the situation will change. Whatever is happening in IIT Bombay, I'm delighted with that. I also want to pay tribute to Director Bose and Professor Kamath first director and first deputy director of IIT Bombay, who were strongly in support of attracting as many women as they could. Thank you all. And it was very nice. You have my name. You can find me on the internet. I am a professor. I edit 2 top journals. I'm all well connected. If there is anything you need in academia, I know everybody in business school all over the world, in any business school, from Dartmouth to Stanford. If you need any connection, any help, you can find me and send me an email. I usually respond within hours.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Sunita, I just, before you finish, maybe, can I speak for a moment? I'm Subhashi Joshi.
Oh, of course. Please.
Yeah, so, sorry. Yeah, it's a wonderful program. I'm faculty in mechanical engineering, but I'm Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relations of IIT Bombay. So my office coordinates, sends mails and communications to you for most of the programs and events. It's wonderful to see that more than 100 women participants joined. I mean, alumni joined. Anuradha, DC, and most of HF, we are working on another project for celebrating the success of women alumni of the institute. But I think what I want to echo what Professor Chaudhary has mentioned, the same thing, that we are all trying to do the best possible thing for the girl children right from the entry into the IIT system. You will not believe, today I'm struggling with one of my close relatives, and her daughter, my sister rather, distant sister, her daughter is likely to get in some IIT, admission in some IIT, but she is not ready to join because she might not get a branch she wants to take. I'm just struggling to convince her. I thought I could have sent this link to my sister and see that how IIT culture is. But I hope I will be able to convince. But I think the other part which is very important is that the group should remain in contact with the institute, among yourselves and with the institute. I will discuss with DC as well as HF, and we will try to do different programs. Probably, we can talk to professors of your batches, and we can do several programs. I think we have a lot of innovative ideas by which we can keep this group going on once in 3 months, or whatever frequency you prefer. So thank you again for coming and joining this program, and thank you for giving the opportunity to me to talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Joshi. And for everyone on the call, the initiative that Professor Joshi was referring to was the Gen Zero initiative that we talked about earlier. And Professor Joshi's office.
You went on mute.
The team from Professor Joshi's office and IIT has been very closely involved in that project to help us bring it to life.
Yeah. And Shibani and I are on the board, so we know how involved and dedicated you are, Professor Joshi. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quickly before you go, Professor Joshi, this is being recorded, so you can still share it with this young woman in your family. So we'll send the link.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, thank you.
So as we go into the next, we're very much close on time, and I really appreciate everyone staying on. I know it's late for people in India. I know people in the US are starting on your days, but it's been wonderful to have these discussions. We want to do 2 polls that we will put up to get feedback before we go into the closing and the breakout sessions. So Sridhar, can you put up the first poll question? And if you could take a minute to just help us answer these questions, it would really allow us to tailor, as we think about going forward discussions and events.
Yeah, so there's 2 questions. You may have to scroll.
Yes, and if you could answer both of them. We'll just give people another minute to finish answering. Okay, I think we've closed the poll now, so I'm glad nobody said this was a waste of their time. Hopefully that means people want more of these kind of sessions, or some sessions. And we will also maybe get more feedback and discuss what's the right cadence, how do we do this. I saw people had some interest in local events as well, so we'll take all that into feedback as we go forward. And then where the next part of this discussion is going to be breakout sessions. So we have some breakout sessions by batch where people can get together and talk and share memories and exchange thoughts and ideas. These breakout sessions are for the women only. So I did want to thank all the people who joined this session today for taking time out from your day, for being involved, both the men and the women, because we all have to work together to continue this journey of how do we make this more inclusive and more get this feeling of diversity, inclusion, and belonging across every part of what we do within IIT and outside IIT as well. And then most importantly, this has been so wonderful in terms of hearing the great stories, listening to people's feedbacks and thoughts, and just connecting with faces and names and people that I haven't spoken to in a long, long time. So with that, thank you again, everyone. Really appreciate your involvement and participation. We will be putting up the breakout groups. So based on your year of graduation or level of interest, you can join any breakout session. Some of those sessions will have a moderator. Some we're going to allow to do maybe more a free flowing conversation. And then, whenever you feel like you can wrap it up from there. And with that, thank you, everyone. It's on behalf of Sunita, myself, and the whole team that includes Suhasini, DC, Sridhar, Jignesh, Subha, Sudha. I'm sure I've missed names, but everyone who was involved in helping us put this together, very much appreciate everyone being on it.